Welcome, everyone. I'm Nancy Altman, president of Social Security Works. 88 years ago today, on August 14th, 1935, President Roosevelt signed Social Security into law. It's not only stood the test of time, it has transformed the nation. Prior to Social Security, the verb retire did not mean what it means today. It was generally used to refer to withdrawing temporarily, as, for example, to retire to the bedroom at the end of the evening. In fact, the first known usage of the noun retiree was in 1935, the year Social Security was debated in Congress and enacted into law. Prior to Social Security, families were often split up, children removed when a breadwinner became disabled or died. Today, those families have economic security thanks to Social Security. When President Roosevelt signed Social Security into law, he called it a cornerstone in a structure which is being built but is by no means complete. Congress added to that structure every few years for a half century, increasing benefits and expanding them, adding, for example, disability insurance and early retirement. But then supporters lost their way. Congress has not added to Social Security for half a century. Fortunately, Congressman John Larson, who represents Connecticut's 1st congressional district and chairs the Social Security subcommittee when the Democrats control the House, is the foremost expert and champion of Social Security in Congress. He has been educating his colleagues and fighting for his wise and extremely popular Social Security 2100 Act for the last decade, improving it in every single Congress. For those of us in the Social Security community, he is our fearless leader. There is no one better to hear from on this 88th birthday. Representative Larson?
Well, thank you, Nancy. And Peter, so great to be with you as well. I think for our viewers and listeners to have two incredible advocates. Advocate doesn't quite explain, from my position, the enormous amount of work and effort. I refer to you as warriors. Because as Nancy pointed out, it's been 52 years since Congress last enhanced the Social Security program. Now, we know today we're celebrating its 88th birthday. So more than half the time that Social Security has been in existence, it hasn't been improved by the United States Congress. And more troubling is that, it hasn't been improved in 52 years, but it also faces solvency issues, something that was addressed in 1983. And how proud we all are that Nancy Altman actually served on the Greenspan Committee. That was 30 years ago. I would like to say that this has been benign neglect on the part of Congress, but it's more serious than that. And today, all across the country, while we're celebrating the 88th birthday, there's a call to action, a call to adopt Social Security 2100. And as important, a call to prevail upon Congress, red state, blue state, unaffiliated, independent, Republican, and Democrat alike, to call upon Congress to do its constitutional responsibility and vote. There's a sense of urgency here that we need to get across. And I know in many respects at forums and meetings like this that oftentimes you're speaking, to the choir, as the saying goes. But it's the choir that leads the singing, and it's your voices that we need. And beyond your voices, it's time for us to take off the gloves, so to speak, and get focused on what needs to be done. With 10,000 baby boomers a day becoming eligible for Social Security, the Social Security population within the next year and a half will exceed more than 70 million fellow Americans. Of those 70 million fellow Americans, more than 5 million get below poverty level checks from Social Security currently. And more than 40% of the nation, the only pension benefit they receive is from Social Security. Would it be, as an example, that we go back to the Great Depression, as was often done to describe what Roosevelt faced? But we don't have to go back that far. We only have to go back to 2008, 2009 for people to understand why President Biden is right when he calls Social Security a sacred trust. People saw in 2008 and 2009 their 401k become a 101k, or people losing pensions altogether. But Social Security never missed a payment. It didn't miss a pension payment, a disability payment, a spousal payment, or a dependent payment. That's because it is, as President Biden has described, a sacred trust between the American people and their government. And their government, AKA the United States Congress, House and Senate, needs to act. I just came from a conference with Dick Blumenthal, along with Chris Van Hollen, who are the co-sponsors of Social Security 2100 in the United States Senate, where we are continuing, as our people in the House of Representatives all across this country today, as part of this birthday celebration, getting out and talking about advocating for Social Security. What does that mean? By advocating, call for a vote. The other side continues to say that they want Social Security, they want to protect it, but they are concerned about this or that. Where's their plan? We have a very specific plan that's detailed out to meet the immediate needs of the people that are currently receiving Social Security and future generations as well. The time has come for Congress to vote. And so we're asking everybody in blue states and in red states and whatever state of mind you happen to be in, to make sure that you're calling and prevailing upon your member of Congress to vote. We believe that 52 years is way too long to wait to enhance a program. Nobody gets wealthy on Social Security. This is subsistence income that people desperately need in this time of inflation. And not having improved the program in 52 years can no longer be tolerated. And we will not. So join with us. Join with Nancy. Join with Peter, who you're going to hear talk about disability and how important that is. And how people, I don't think, understand that even in the case of veterans, more veterans rely on Social Security disability than on the VA. When Memorial Day happens, when Veterans Day happens, it's great to say how much we love and support our veterans. How about actually supporting them in terms of increasing and enhancing Social Security benefits that haven't been done in 52 years? Let's stop the BS and start talking about getting a vote on Social Security 2100 in both chambers. Senator Blumenthal is dedicated to that. We're dedicated to it in the House of Representatives. And you know what, frankly, if the Republicans have a better plan, or any plan for that matter, put it out there. We still have an amendment process that works, but for God's sake, let's have a vote for the American people so they get to see where their elected officials stand. We know where people who are committed to the program stand. Where do our members of Congress stand? The only way that we can know that is by exercising the vote. If they won't vote in committee, we'll work on getting a discharge petition and making sure that every citizen in this country knows about it and starts prevailing upon Congress to do the right thing and vote. That's what you get elected to office for, to cast a vote on behalf of the people you're sworn to serve. The number one anti-poverty program for the elderly, the number one anti-poverty program for children in this time of COVID and inflationary crisis that has hit the elderly the hardest. That's why we need the urgency of a vote, and we need to vote now. Thank you for joining us on this celebrative day as a birthday. But as I said at the outset, happy birthday. But let's drop the gloves and let's get going on engaging in a fight that needs to take place to get this across the finish line. Nancy, thank you so much. And Social Security Works for organizing this. Peter, an honor to be with you on this forum.
Well, thank you so much for those stirring remarks. I'm ready to go out now and start. Before I do, we have another speaker. As you said, it's Peter Morley, who is both a dear friend and a colleague. He is a beneficiary of disability insurance, as well as an educator. He educates about the program, advocates for it, and a tireless fighter. I think warrior is the right word. He is a real fighter for improving the economic security of all of us. So without further ado, Peter, you have the floor.
Well, I am very, excuse me, I'm a bit choked up by the Congressman's words. I just want you to know I've been working with Senator Blumenthal and Senator Van Hollen to make sure that 2100 happens. So, and they're very good men. So it's quite an honor to know you and to know Nancy and Social Security Works. So thank you so much. Such an honor. I'm very humbled to speak with you today on the 88th birthday of Social Security. And as I said last year, I intend on ensuring that this program lives to see many more birthdays. And as someone who subsists on Social Security disability, I am so grateful for the income because I paid into it for years when I was able to work, and it was there for me when I needed it when I became disabled. And in 2007, I did become permanently disabled from an accident and I was unable to work. And I was fortunate to be spared the entire cost of my medical bills because I had continuous insurance coverage. But since I could no longer work, I had to apply for Social Security disability. And it is a daunting task applying for SSDI. Between the application, waiting period, the physical examination, it was months. And that is if you were incredibly privileged, as I was, to be awarded disability in my first try. I found out years later how people in my chronic illness communities had to appeal several times before they were approved. Their waiting times are years. All that time with little or no income, and who can live like that? I will always be grateful I was approved because I have had diagnoses over the last 16 years that have catapulted me well above 10 pre-existing conditions. I had to stop counting actually to get through each day. Your health can change in an instant, and I'm living proof of that. In 2013, I was diagnosed with lupus, and the chronic fatigue that I fight every day makes it a struggle to get out of bed. I take 38 different medications yearly and self-inject myself with a biologic treatment to slow down the progression of lupus. Without access to insurance, I could not afford to pay for these medications and would lose access to my team of doctors. So without my SSDI and traditional Medicare, I would not be speaking with you today. I would have perished. And yet there are so many who have lost their battles just waiting to be approved for the program. In 6.5 years, I've traveled to Washington, D.C. 35 times. I've collected the healthcare stories of thousands of people who have shared their personal stories and concerns with me. I've held over 800 advocacy meetings with Democratic and Republican members of Congress alike. I have also had the honor to testify before 3 separate House committees. People on Social Security, SSDI, SSI, have told me because of the threats recently stated by Speaker McCarthy and the Republican Study Committee and others, too much, we don't have enough time to go through all the members, to cut the program, that they feel alone, scared, and afraid when they should be focusing their energy on their own well-being. And we paid into Social Security and into Medicare. These are our earned benefits. It is our money that these lawmakers are trying to steal. While most people think of Social Security as only being there for retirement, it also provides payments to long-term disabled people like me who are no longer able to work. And in the last few years, we have a large new population that are struggling, people with long COVID. They're not only struggling with this new affliction, but they are being backlogged and are waiting years for their Social Security disability to begin. This is shameful, and it must change. I know our country's disability system works because I've had to rely on it through numerous major healthcare crises. It is so crucial to share your stories because by sharing your healthcare journeys, you are putting a human face to what would otherwise be considered data. And as Congressman Larson said, we all need to do our part in making sure that Social Security is expanded. Thank you all for fighting for everyone on Social Security, especially for the claimants and the recipients. We appreciate your time, encouragement, and support. As I did last year, I will leave you with this ask. Please join me in making a promise to never stop fighting until we expand benefits for all and overhaul the application system to expedite the process for patients applying for SSDI. They should not have to wait for years. It's a tragedy and it's a disgrace to our country. It is my dream, I will live to see this day.
Peter, thank you so very much for both putting a face on this vital institution and also for that, again, explaining so clearly why this program works so well and how important it is. Before we close, I'd like to ask you each questions and give you a chance if you want to make any concluding remarks, and then I'll make a few comments to end. But Chairman Larson, I'll always think of you as Chairman Larson, but Congressman Larson,
That's going to happen.
I know, we're working on it. You've made very clear that there's a stark difference between the Democrats in Congress and the Republicans in Congress. The Democratic Party wants to expand Social Security. The Republican Party is on record for wanting to cut Social Security. But the media hasn't reported that. So the American people often are not clear. Do either of you have thoughts? I know it's a very hard question, something I struggle with, but if you have any thoughts about what to do, how to get the American people to see what's at stake here?
Well, I think couldn't agree with you more, and especially that it needs to be reported on. And it goes back to what I was saying earlier. What they will report on is if there's a vote. But having said that, first and foremost, a lot of the media is not aware, even because the Republicans will typically call, as you pointed out, Nancy, Social Security an entitlement. And you hear a lot of people referring to it as an entitlement. And of course, it's not. It's an earned benefit. And the American people all go, yeah, and all we have to do is look at our pay stub and it verifies it because it says FICA, Federal Insurance Contribution. Now, the Republicans, as you point out, also make a point of saying, oh, yeah, this is some kind of big bureaucracy. Really? This is the nation's #1 insurance program, the #1 anti-poverty program for the elderly and the children. I know a little bit about insurance coming from an insurance capital of the world here in Hartford. In insurance language, Social Security has a 99% loss ratio. You know what that means? That means they manage the distribution of the largest insurance program in the country with under 1% administrative costs. It's the most efficient and effective program that we have. It can always be improved, but to somehow equate that this is not efficient and effective and the best way to spend our money. When I went to the Aetna school, they talked about the 3 legs on the stool: your personal savings, your pensions, and Social Security, understanding that that is the nation's insurance program. And to also get across to the media that Congress is not going to be anything that the president can do by executive order. Otherwise, I guarantee Joe Biden would have done it already. And it's not anything that the Supreme Court is going to adjudicate. It's the responsibility of Congress to take this up. And that requires that Congress vote. And it also requires that people put their plans out there. The media should be calling upon every candidate running for higher office, for the presidency, for Congress, for the United States Senate, for governors, for mayors, for town council members. What about Social Security, and what's your plan for Social Security? Because it has that profound of an impact. It is the most important economic development plan in every community. Because for so many of our senior citizens, this is steady income that comes into their district and into their community. And where do they spend that money? Right back in the community as well. So Nancy, you're absolutely right. We got to get the media to pay more attention to this and also lay out these plans. And when you hear this idea of, oh my God, we want to have what it needs is a study, we just have to go behind closed doors. As soon as you hear those 2 words, study or closed doors, ask yourself this: what is it that we need to study? This program has been studied more than any other program in the history of the United States. There's only really 2 practical ways to go. You can cut Social Security against it by increasing the revenues. And President Biden needs to be commended for this, again, for saying, yeah, we're going to start with people over $400,000. That's 0.6% of the American people. And we're going to have them pay what people making $30,000, $50,000 a year pay all year round. They should pay the same rate. They certainly are in a position where they can afford to do it. And it certainly is the nation's #1 insurance program that they ought to be contributing to. Bill Gates stops paying into Social Security after day 1. That's not right. And we got to close the loophole. Again, a FICA loophole that will, again, people who have avoided paying taxes that they should to their government to assist us in the nation's #1 insurance protection program. They shouldn't be able to get around that by some loophole. We close that in our legislation. We remain true to the president's commitment not to have any tax, even though I would call this an insurance premium, not to have any tax that impacts anyone above $400,000. And that gives us both the solvency that we need into the future, as well as expanding our benefits that hasn't been done in 50 plus years. The time to act is now. The media has got to start asking every presidential candidate. This is primary season. This is time to ask those questions of every candidate, every member of Congress, House and Senate, governors, elected officials in general, because this impacts us all. Thank you, Nancy, for asking that question. Sorry if I get a little carried away here, but it's that important.
It is. And I think one thing to emphasize, and you said it right at the end, is that under your plan, no one earning under $400,000 would pay a penny. And and in fact, would even get a tax cut and would get expanded benefits. While the Republicans will not put out a plan, and there's a reason they won't put out a plan, because what they want to do is highly unpopular.
Nancy, you're right about that. And I should have emphasized this. They were all in favor of tax cuts. And when you hear them talk at any forum they're at, they'll talk about tax cuts being the way to go. When they were in charge, they did provide the nation with tax cuts. 83% of their tax cut went to the nation's wealthiest 1%. Why would they deny a tax cut for working people who continue to work because they have to make ends meet, but pay a tax on Social Security that they've already put into a system? Nobody's taking their Social Security and investing it in the stock market. They're taking it so that they can subsist and get by and live in their community, and they spend that money locally. That's why it's such an important economic development plan. If anyone needs a tax cut, it's those people who have already paid into a system and continue to get taxed on their Social Security.
Well, thank you so much. And Peter, let me bring you in on this too and ask my other question. And that is, what do you say to critics who claim we can't afford Social Security?
I mean, just like Congressman Larson said, it's our money. We paid into it. I mean, we paid into it. I remember the FICA on all my paychecks. I actually, embarrassingly, when I first got my first paycheck, did not know what FICA was. So I looked it up, and I know it was every paycheck, and I was grateful, like I said. So it's our money, and that they are taking, and they want to take away from us. I really appreciate the fact that the congressman has mentioned subsistence, because it's true. This is my subsistence. And for a large majority of us, on, people with disabilities and seniors, this is our only income. This is my only income. And, I can't imagine anything less, even with the generous increase this year, the cost of living adjustment. It got, unfortunately, eaten away in my Medicare supplement. So, and thank goodness I had the increase, but still, we are barely surviving on what we have now. That's what I would say to them. And we're surviving because we're getting our money that we paid into.
Thank you for that. I think that, again, is so important. So let me conclude by asking Chairman Larson, Congressman Larson, boy, you have to become chairman soon, because I keep saying it. What do you say to critics who claim we can't afford Social Security?
I say very clearly, and Roosevelt got it right originally, we can't afford not to have it. without which, for more than 40% of the 66 million Americans, over 66 million Americans who are currently on social, that's all they have. And can you imagine the havoc that that would wreak on every single community? We don't talk about it enough that Social Security is also an economic development plan without which people in their basic communities wouldn't be able to get by. On average, you know, there's about 150,000 Social Security recipients in every district. I give every member of Congress a Social Security card. And on that card, it tells them how many Social Security recipients they have. And we break it down to those who receive a pension, those who get dependent and spousal coverage, and those who are on disability. So every member knows for their district what's coming in to that district specifically and how much money that means. And imagine we haven't enhanced or improved that in more than 52 years. And during this inflationary time, during this time of pandemic that has hurt the elderly the most, this is the time when they need to have the program enhanced to step up, to keep abreast with inflation and the cost of living that they have experienced that we've done nothing about. And so can you imagine saying, you know, we can't afford it? We cannot afford not to do this. That's what's going to be. And this is a key to our system of democratic republic that thrives on entrepreneurialism and capitalism. If it doesn't have a safety net, and everybody, including those insurance companies that I talked about, knows that it's the third leg on the stool that makes us so successful, but one that's been neglected. I'd like to say it was benignly neglected, but I think the facts are the facts. It's been 52 years, and Congress has not voted to enhance a program that our citizens desperately need and has been brought out by both the 10,000 baby boomers a day that become eligible for Social Security and the fact that they desperately need this money during times of inflation.
Well, I think we have our marching orders. On this 88th birthday of the enactment of Social Security, we find ourselves at a perilous moment. In the 1950s, President Eisenhower spoke of what he called a small splinter group that wanted to end Social Security. He reported that their number was negligible, and they were, in his words, stupid. Unfortunately, those who hold their views now control the Republican Party. Fortunately, Republican voters disagree. The positions of the two parties could not be starker. Despite the failure of the mainstream media to report it, Democrats want to expand Social Security paid for by requiring millionaires and billionaires to pay their fair share. Republicans want to cut it, or worse, end it as we know it. For Social Security's birthday, I urge all supporters, along with my friends and colleagues, Peter and Congressman Larson, I urge all supporters of our Social Security system to educate your families, educate your friends, educate your neighbors. This is about the difference between the two parties, about the plan to expand, not cut Social Security, and have the wealthiest pay their fair share. This is a fight, and to urge us, as Congressman Larson said, to have their representatives, who of course our representatives work for us, we don't work for them, and demand of those who represent us that they do what we elected them to do, and that is vote. This is a fight we can and must win. So with that, thank you to both of our wonderful speakers and to everyone who is watching this event today.
Thank you, Nancy.
Thank you.